Great to have you with us.
Great to be on.
What's your reaction to the scale of response we're seeing in financial markets? It was sharp selling Thursday, Friday. It's continuing today. Does it worry you?
Look, I don't think tariffs help anyone. I think we need to have that competitive advantage. That's how the global economy works. There are obviously certain situations where countries have been maybe dumping goods that you want to see that, or there's been unfairness. Tariffs have been higher on one side than the other. But no, I think I want to see a situation where we see tariffs come off, and especially in a UK context where I think a lot of businesses, small businesses, particularly in my constituency, already feeling that they're being hammered by these new national insurance tax rises, and now seeing some of these tariffs as well. It is creating concern and uncertainty as well.
Certainly. The German index is down 10% now. Do you think we're headed for a global recession?
I hope not. I hope not. And whatever we do in the UK, whatever the UK government's response is, really needs to recognise that this is a concerning time for business. So they shouldn't be putting extra massive regulations on business like we're seeing at the moment with the 300 pages of extra regulations on employment going through, which I really worry is going to harm jobs in the UK. Or that national insurance tax rise, which is only kicking in yesterday. Some businesses have already been shedding jobs in advance. I really worry about the impact on the wider economy now, and also even budgets in the public sector as well. We've seen that local government have been compensated to a small degree for some of the extra costs they're bearing directly, but so many of their suppliers, particularly things like social care, they haven't been compensated for those. So it's going to be the rest of the public sector which gets squeezed in that area, and that's going to be things like millions of potholes not being filled. Or I spoke to a head teacher literally last week saying, yes, he had been compensated for his teaching staff, but not for the support staff. So he's going to have to possibly make redundancies of the support staff in his school because the government has put the national insurance on but not compensated them for all of it.
The government today is announcing that they're relaxing the regulations that your government put into place about the transition to electric vehicles. Is that something that's a sensible thing to do at this time?
Well, I mean, the first thing they did when they came into office was actually change. We'd moved. Rishi's government had moved the start date back of this to 2035, and then they moved. And the Labour government came in with Ed Miliband and Keir Starmer, move it forward to 2030. Now they're saying they're going to move it back to 2035, which was the situation when they came into government, but they might change.
It 2030.
But they might change some of the transition. Well, we don't know exactly what they're going to do, but my understanding is they're going to move it back to 2035, which is what it was when they came into office, but that some of the steps between 2030 and 2035 might also be changed as well. We'll just have to see what they actually announce. But, I mean, the car industry is being hit by £200 million a year, just for the car sector, of extra national insurance costs. There are real concerns in the commercial van sector around the future of the plug-in van grant, absolutely essential for big manufacturers like Ford. Transit in the UK is their absolute flagship product. We do not know what's going to happen there. They're one of the biggest employers in my constituency with their Dunton campus there, the UK headquarters. So I'm very, very worried about the future of this sector, particularly as well when we're seeing actually things like the twin cab tax coming in. That's on a lot of commercial vehicles suddenly being taxed as if they're cars. That's thousands of pounds extra a year for small businesses in my constituency.
It's not a typically Tory thing to do, but at a moment like this, industries, we could talk about the steel industry, for example, perhaps is even more pronounced example of the pressure being felt because of artificial forces from Donald Trump. Should nationalisation be considered where necessary?
Look, I mean, I think there needs to be very, very carefully thought through. We did see an example in the early 70s when that happened with Rolls-Royce under a Conservative government because of certain international factors. And when there is, major strategic sectors which have a defence element to them, I think there's a possibility of consideration of that. I wouldn't like to prejudge anything at the moment, and I think the government needs to do a lot more. And I think the thing it really needs to do is actually move a lot more on some of these environmental taxes. Kemi made a really good speech a few weeks ago, really setting the direction of travel for the Conservatives around that agenda. Of course, we want to be sensible with a sustainable environmental policy, but that cannot be the expense of jobs in the UK when all we're doing is offshoring them to other countries. I think that's been a really sensible move under the new leadership the Conservatives had, and I hope we can go further in that direction in the future.
Richard Holden, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.